Hi, my name is Tina Walker, and today I'm going to show you a tutorial on how I created this vintage heart hanger for Hazel and Ruby. So this is what the project is, and I'm going to walk you through how I created it. So I took a piece from one of the paper rolls. This is one of my favorite ones from Hazel and Ruby, and I went ahead and added some distress ink to it just to start distressing up the paper. I like anything vintage, so the white was a little too stark for the project that I wanted to create, so I just used, I think antique linen was the color that I used, and I put it on two different spots right on the paper, so it kind of aged the paper a little bit. Then I took one of the heart doilies that I had, and I'm sacrificing one of them to use as a template to cut out my hearts from this pattern paper. So you can see me just cutting around it. I cut it a little bit smaller because I knew the edge of the doily would be peeking out. So now I'm going to go ahead and just trace two different heart shapes right on top of where I distressed the paper. You can see me doing that right there. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut those two pieces out. So basically what I'm going to do is sandwich the doily in between the two pieces of pattern paper and back them up against each other. So it's a total three-dimensional project. So it could be hung somewhere where you can see both sides of the heart. It's not just a one-sided type of home decor project. So now I've got the pieces cut it out. So what I'm going to do is distress them a little bit more. So now I'm going to use Vintage Photo, which is my absolute all-time favorite distress ink color. So I'm distressing the edges just a little bit more, just to add a little bit more of that old worn look to the paper. And you can see it really starts to age them here. And so the inside of the paper's got the antique linen, and the Vintage Photo color of the ink is on the outside. So now what I'm going to do is add some more distressing. Since it's distress ink, it reacts to water. So I'm just spritzing some water right on top of the paper, and it will actually react with the ink that's on there. I actually later on sprayed it with some spray mist that I had because I wanted it to be a little bit more shimmery, so it actually covered up some of that distress that I created when I splattered the water, but that was okay. So now I'm going to distress as well the outside edge of my doily, again, because it was a little too white for the vintage look that I wanted. So I went ahead and distressed both sides. So you can see what I'm doing here is I'm going to be sandwiching both of those together. So what I did now was go ahead and glue the heart down to the doily, and I stitched around the outside edge. I did leave a little section because I'm going to stuff this with a little bit of filling. So I did all of that. Then around where I stitched each heart, that's where I'm going to place this rhinestone trim. So again, the rhinestones in the trim were a solid clear color, but I wanted more of that vintage look. So here I'm coloring the rhinestones with 3 different shades of alcohol ink. Alcohol ink is also one of my favorite projects to use when I'm distressing items a lot because it really creates an awesome vintage look. So I'm just applying it right onto the rhinestone trim, and then I'm going to dab it off a little bit with a foam square. And then when you see the close-ups at the end of the video, you can really see how that colored. It changed the color of the clear rhinestones to look more old and vintage. So now I have stuffed the heart. You can see where I've stuffed it here, and it put just a little tiny bit of batting on the inside, not a whole lot, and then I stitched it closed. So you can see I added the rhinestone to one of the hearts. Now I'm adding it to the other. And I wasn't sure if I wanted to hot glue the hearts or the rhinestones to the outside edge of the heart or not, but then I thought I've got some quarter-inch score tape, which I use a lot, and it fit perfectly right behind this rhinestone trim. So it actually made it super easy for me to apply the rhinestone trim directly to the heart because I didn't have to worry about gluing it and holding it, especially around the corners of the upper edge of the heart, which sometimes the glue wouldn't stick too much unless you sat there and held it. So you can see it is super easy to go on, and it sticks right away. I use score tape for a lot of different projects of my own. So I'm just doing it around both edges and lining them up to where they meet. So it went on pretty easy. And see how easy it is to go around the corners. You don't have to sit and hold it. It just sticks right away. Made it really fast. So I did the same on the other side, and I matched them up so you can see I have both hearts done. So then what I did, I die cut a couple of words. I wasn't sure if I wanted to use the word home or the word family, so I just die cut a couple of them. And I did the same technique as I did with the paper and the doily. I just wanted to age it a little bit, so I'm using the same color inks, and I'm just applying it right to the white cardstock. I just use white cardstock to cut these out. And then I do the same thing. I spritz it with a little bit of water, and at the end I actually sprayed it with some of that same spray mist that I used on the heart too, just to add a little bit of glimmer, but it created a really pretty vintage look with a little bit of glimmer to the project. So you can see me just spraying it on there right there. And I ended up using the word home, and I just glued it to the top of the hanger you'll see in the pictures. And then I just glued both hearts together, and voila, it was done. I added a couple of trims for the front for my little flower. I just made a flower out of some of the tissue paper. And that was it. Hung it from the hanger. It was a pretty fast project when I was done. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it.